this is going to be a little different. This is about my favorite album covers of all time. So they're not all iconic or anything, they're personal. But to be in this grouping I'm about to present, the cover has to be interesting on its own, but it also has to reflect the music inside that album. That's key here. That's a big part of it. It has to inform you. It says, this is what you're going to hear in a picture. So I'm going to start with this one, Elvis Costello's second album called This Year's Model. And look at that stare. Now that's a theme that I'm going to repeat a lot. The stare. Rock musicians have to give you a good stare. Staring out of that album cover have to reach you. It has to say something to you. And Elvis was saying a lot to me. So Elvis gets it. Oh, and by the way, most of the covers are going to be, all the covers except this thing, Zappa's Yellow Shark. This is just in because he has the stare. And unlike Elvis here at the beginning of his career, this is near the end. This is not rock music. This is his chamber music, but really, really awesome music. Great recording, by the way. And Elvis and Frank, I don't know. There's something going on there, right? I think so. Next up. Now this is the first collection of the Rolling Stones' greatest hits. And again, as covers go, yeah, the 60s were happening. They were happening. They were breaking out. They weren't the Beatles, but they were up there. Big time, really big. You know, in my personal book, the Beatles and the Stones at this period, which is like 65 or so, they're equals. The Beatles are not ahead of these guys. But anyway, this cover says a lot. Oh, and by the way, the interior pictures, like these, yeah, they were good too. Oh, then there's this, Led Zeppelin 3. Now, Led Zeppelin 3 is not Led Zeppelin 1 or 2. It's a whole different animal. It's not particularly heavy metal. It's a lot of acoustic tunes, really sweet sounding. Shows they're not a one-trick pony, right? They're not just no. There's more going on. And the cover, by the way, is interactive. Look, you see it moves. You can change the cover. Wow, this was high technology in 1969 or 70 when this came out. So anyway, that's a biggie for me. How about Talking Heads? More songs about buildings and food. Now, by the way, right away, the cover, the title. More songs about buildings and food. Yeah, that's catchy, right? But the cover, those are Polaroid pictures. Like, it's a mosaic, and it's about fragmentation. It's about breaking up. It's about things are getting nutty in the late 70s. This is 1978. The times they are changing. New wave, punk is happening. The old guard, the Beatles and the Stones, that's getting to be historic. These guys are what was happening, certainly in my book, and I saw them a lot at that point. And they were something to see in 1977 and 1978. By 1979 it was a little different. Stare. Bob Dylan could stare. Look at that stare. So Highway 61 revisited. Whoa. I mean, yeah, that cover jumped out at me, a lot of other people, and bought this record and said, yeah, that's what's going on in here. That's, yeah, big time. Bob, yeah, at not quite his peak. His peak's coming up. How about the Beatles' Rubber Soul? Now, that picture, that weird, I guess you could call it psychedelic picture, that is not Photoshop. Photoshop was many decades away. That's just pure analog photo manipulation. And how they did it, I don't know. I saw a picture somewhere of the unsqueezed version, because the original photograph doesn't look anything like this. So I will try to find that and insert it right here. Okay, next up is Ray Charles. Ray Charles was really huge in my childhood. And the thing about Ray was, Ray, before this record about country and western songs, he was a blues guy. He was R&B. He was soul. He was black music. How did he make a country and western record then? No, I don't think there were any other black artists in country and western. Hardly an expert. Maybe there are. You guys, I'm sure, will tell me if there were. But the point is, this record, his record company didn't want Ray to make this record. They said, "You just stick with what you're doing. You're doing good." And he's like, "No, I want to do new stuff." And he did, and it was huge, huge record. And he showed them. Now this is a very different kind of staring cover. The Ventures, this is an instrumental band pretty much, and electric guitars, great sound, and this is a staring cover, at least in my direction to the cover. And not politically correct nowadays, but hey, it's probably 1961 or something. This was okay. So, but the sound is, it actually does sound like this. It does. These guys, Jefferson Airplane, Surrealistic Pillow, their second album, their first with Grace Slick. That cover, look at those guys. Look what's going on there. This is the times changing right there, right in front of your face. I love this record. My favorite, Jefferson Airplane. Now, okay, I'm going to do a Steely Dan cover, but Steely Dan is, I had an on-again, off-again thing with Steely Dan. I loved them, then I got bored, then I loved them, then I got bored. By the time this one came out, it was in a down period for me and Steely. But the cover is so good. It's so mysterious. It's like, what is going on there, man? What is this? I don't know. What is this? 1980, 79, something like that. But the cover is fantastic. Really, really good. Now the ultimate in staring cover has got to be this one, Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde. Look at that guy's stare, man. Woo! And the out of focus thing is also really cool. Like I wondered, why is it out of focus? Why didn't they use a sharper picture? Hey, no need for sharper pictures, man. That one says it all. And by the way, it expands. Here's the full cover. There's Bob, But I don't care about that part. I care about this part. And the music. This is Bob Dylan at his absolute, in my opinion, creative peak. After this, the record that follows this is John Wesley Harding. Good record. Not like this. No. The times changed radically. And I would say when this record came out, Blonde on Blonde, every other rock musician was bowing down. Stones, Beatles, whoever. They said, give this guy room, man. He's got it. He is the one. So this album cover is another one that I looked at for a long time. The Rolling Stones, Let It Bleed. And I'm looking at the cover. I still look at this cover and say, what the hell was going on? Was the art director, did he have he or she have a bad night the night before? They said, okay, got to do a cover, whip something up. And he said, how about this? And look at that, a tire, cake, a record. What is that? What is going on there? I still don't know, but I look at it all the time. And by the way, the back cover is this is before, right? Yeah. And then this is the after. They went in there and did their damage. Yeah. So when I was a kid, I got into Thelonious Monk. Thelonious Sphere Monk. Now it wasn't this album. This wasn't the first. But this album cover was the one. It just said something about Thelonious that, yeah, he is the one. He is the one. Like Bob Dylan is the one for his genre. For jazz, and for me, my jazz, Thelonious is numero uno because he's so deep. He's so letting it fly. He had his own rules. He did it his own way, and no one else could touch it then or now. I think he's the best jazz composer of all time. And certainly there hasn't been anybody in the late 20th century or present century, the 21st century, that can hold a candle to Mr. Monk. He's the one. I'm going to finish up with one of my mother's records, the Concert Sinatra. So I was staring at this record when I was a little kid, and I didn't love it, but I loved the cover. The cover fascinated me, even before I understood about recording sessions and stuff, because this is what a Frank Sinatra recording session looked like in those days. This isn't a normal recording session. It was done on a sound stage, a film sound stage, because there's got to be 40, 50 musicians in there, and lots of microphones, and the cover tells you all about the details of the recording over here, and it continues back here. Lots of technical information. That's kind of interesting right there. But there's Frank. He is the man of the hour that day, man, no doubt about it, and for a long time for a lot of people. And I didn't like Frank's music as a kid, but as the decades rolled by, I get Frank now. He is a genius with his voice, his phrasing, his power, his nuanced delivery. Whew, nobody can touch him. So at this point, I want to know about your stuff. What are your favorite album covers? And they don't have to be iconic. They don't have to be the ones that everybody else knows. They could be your favorites. And the important thing about telling us about them is tell us why, not just a list. I would prefer you tell me why they're so important to you, the covers, and how the covers relate to the music inside. So please share. Oh, my name's Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. And it's coming up 5 times a week right now. If you dig it, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. And to do that, you hit this button. To do that, you hit this button right down there that says subscribe, and then you'll have a choice. And the choice is hit the notification bell. If you don't hit that bell, you won't. You will not be notified every time there's a brilliant new episode. So you got to hit that bell. You can follow me on Twitter at AudiophiliacMan. You can check me out on Instagram at steve.guttenberg. And better yet, here's the inside tip. Check out the Patreon, which can be found at patreon.com/audiophiliac. Okay, got that out of the way. But almost as important as that are my playlists. I have playlists here on this channel for music reviews and headphone reviews and speaker reviews and amplifier reviews and interviews. There's so much stuff. You could binge watch this thing for probably months before you get through it all. So check those out. And now I have nothing else to say except thank you so much for watching. And I hope to see you back here again very, very soon.